So we're seeing a lot of dysfunction, and the crime is a big deal. And in the last year, in particular the last 13 months, we've seen protest after protest after protest, certainly as a result of the Hamas terrorist attacks on October 7th in Israel, when hundreds of people were taken hostage, when well over 1,000 people were brutally and barbarically murdered, where women were viciously and violently raped, tortured, and killed, children burnt alive and shot, elderly people abused and beaten up and killed. I remember seeing some of those videos, and I'll never in my life get those out of my head, the barbaric nature of that attack, and seeing what's happened in our streets subsequently, and the words that have been spoken about our Jewish community, and the mayhem, and the targeting of Jewish businesses, and it's escalated to such a point now that we saw riots in Montreal the other day where someone was yelling, caught on camera yelling about the final solution for the Jewish people is coming. In Canada in 2024. That's what's happening in this country. That's what's been permitted to transpire over the last number of years. Jewish Canadians don't feel safe in their own country. In Canada, in 2024, they don't feel safe to identify themselves. They don't feel safe in their businesses. Their elderly care homes have been protested. Their synagogues have been lit on fire and vandalized. Their children's schools have been shot up. Jewish members of parliament have to be under round-the-clock security, fear of their lives, just for standing up for Jewish Canadians and for standing up for their principles on Israel. Threats to their lives have happened. And what have we seen from Parliament? There's not been any action on this. There's not been any firm stances taken by the Liberal government in the 13 months. In fact, in Public Safety Committee, Conservatives have tried repeatedly. The Public Safety and National Security Committee of Canada is tasked with dealing with public safety and national security issues. And we have a group of Canadians, the Jewish Canadians representing less than 1% of the population, that have been the most targeted population in this country, particularly in the last 13 months. Nothing has transpired at Public Safety and National Security Committee. Liberals have stopped those motions every step of the way, looked to water them down every single step of the way, Madam Speaker. Every single step of the way. You can watch the footage. We've repeatedly tried to bring this forward at Public Safety, that this is obviously an issue of national significance, of public safety, of national security, what's been happening to the Jewish Canadians in this country as a result of what happened on October 7th. And if we don't think that the most vile elements of some of those protesters have been emboldened by the fact that Hamas applauded a Liberal government decision to side with them, if we don't think that that's had an impact, I think we're just deluding ourselves. There are serious problems happening in this country across the board, and Jewish Canadians have had it some of the worst off by far in the last 13 months. And yet the Public Safety and National Security Committee of Canada refuses to do a concrete look into this issue specifically. I haven't even mentioned the multiple thwarted terrorist plots against the Jewish community. There's been 2, maybe 3, just in the past year, targeting one community just for being Jewish. We only found out recently that December 2023, there was a rally in support of releasing the hostages on Parliament Hill. The leader of the opposition was there. The deputy leader of the opposition was there, who's Jewish. A number of other members. Actually, in fact, there were 2 Liberal members of Parliament there. And apparently, unbeknownst to them, no one found out about this publicly until 10 months after the fact, most recently, there were apparently 2 terrorist-affiliated young people, teenagers, who had been deep in the plots of plotting a bomb attack on that rally. A bomb attack on the heart of our democracy, targeting Jewish Canadians for being Jewish. Right here in Parliament. And the Public Safety and National Security Committee of Canada doesn't think that that's something that we should be looking into? Really? How is that acceptable? How is it acceptable that the committee tasked with this, out of every committee, doesn't think it's a priority to focus specifically on the anti-Semitism threat, the threat of anti-Semitism and the terrorist plots towards them, and the extreme violence that we've been seeing escalating towards the Jewish people? How is that acceptable? We are not doing our duty as a Public Safety National Security Committee. Conservatives will continue to push for this, because we believe it is completely and wholly unacceptable what has been happening, and the fact that we feel the government has not taken it seriously and not clearly sent a very clear message to the vile people shouting things like calling for the final solution of the Jewish people. Where is the robust response? Where is the solidarity with with Jewish Canadians and their families in Israel, who obviously have the right to defend themselves in the face of the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust? And I'll just conclude. I recently spoke to CJPAC about these issues, and I had 2 women come up to me after, and they were quite emotional. And again, this is 13 months after this happened. And they were grown professional women, but you can tell they were having a tough time. And they said to me, you know, since that day, we feel so alone. We feel so alone. Jewish Canadians in Canada feel alone, like the government has abandoned them, turned their back on their family in Israel, turned their back on their needs, and the fact that there's terrorist-affiliated people in this country that are trying to bomb them to smithereens, that are trying to massacre them. And the fact that, as Vice Chair of the Public Safety Committee, the Liberals won't allow us to focus on this issue. What kind of signal does that send to people who want to do harm to Jewish Canadians? What kind of signal does that send? Shame on the Liberals at committee for doing that. We should be studying this, and we should be studying this now, Madam Speaker. And Conservatives are going to continue to stand up for Jewish Canadians at that committee, and we're not going to stop. Thank you, Madam Speaker.